I would show them.
Right after getting like body checked into a wall, Tucker was like,
Alright guys, so we can go over questions if you guys have any. I'm assuming things that you got wrong, you're like, I don't remember doing that. So like I said, what we're gonna work on today is kind of reviewing the things we talked about prior to break. We still have another section in this chapter before we get ready for a test, but I think reviewing today and then reviewing again. So just a heads up, we have like basically 6 regular days before the end of the semester, end of like our time together. So we go 4 days this week. We still have Virtual Friday this Friday, so if you're behind on things and need to kind of catch up, that's still there. And then Monday, Tuesday next week, and then we have exams. So we probably will get the one more test in, but then not learn anything brand new again. So like review for the exam and then take our exam. With that being said, that's the end of our time together in geometry. So then you don't have math until next year again, which is crazy. So you, what was I gonna say? So if your grades are not where you want them to be, this is the week to kind of get things taken care of and caught up and like come into me and say, I need this grade to be different and we'll get things figured out. So using ARs this week wisely is important. So let me know if there's anything you guys need from me in that way. At this point, I think grades are caught up, other than if you turned in something like over break, just as like something you were missing. I didn't go on Schoology at all over break. So, or I went on there just to make sure everything was online, but I wasn't gonna grade anything. So, is there anything specific that you wanna go over right here? Otherwise, like I said, we can just start our review and, yeah. So actually we're gonna do kind of a chart type thing. Mason did a step back on Corey and fell over, and he switched to 3, and then everybody fell over, so did Jeff. We were just dying laughing. What does the other side say? You guys are just all. Oh no, this is just this is
yeah, this is we're in the middle school gym versus
and this is it's not cheap. Yeah, it's more fun.
And then the second one, it was 2v2. Corey was guarding me. I was like coming up a little bit past half court. He's like, shoot, shoot it. And then everyone was like back, like, shoot, right in the face, right in the face. And then I shot it.
And he freaking swished it. It was pretty much a half quarter.
Yeah.
And he swishes it, and we all just fall over dying.
And then Jeff's like, Corey, it's right here. It says, it says it R-I-T, Corey.
And Jeff's like, up here we're gonna rip.
Okay, so what we're gonna basically do, this chart is meant to basically write down all our different properties of quadrilaterals. So it's kind of almost like a little family tree here of quadrilaterals. So this one kind of passes all its properties down as we go down the chart. And so we'll kind of write specific things like in the shapes or around the shapes so you guys can kind of know the different types. And obviously the drawing I have here is just a general one. So this isn't the only quadrilateral shape, so it's kind of supposed to be just a kind of a symbol. So we're gonna kind of fill out all these different parts. We'll take a break part of the way. I'll probably give you guys a little bit extra time to work on homework today just to kind of get back in the swing of things so that you're not feeling like this is such a kick in the teeth to be back at school. So I'm gonna slide in here. So we're going to start with quadrilaterals, so like the general shape that we talked about this whole chapter. So this top one is just a normal quadrilateral, just as kind of straightforward as we can be with this. So what do I know about every quadrilateral? What do you guys know about a quadrilateral? So if I tell you it's 4 sides, you have something that straightforward. So it always has 4 sides. And there's one other thing. Has to do with the angles add to what? And the 3. So there's 4 angles, the angles add to 360, yep. So the angles equal 360. Oh, that should be like interior angles. So, well, I guess exterior as well, but the angles would add to 360 degrees. So those 2 properties are true of everything below this. So we're not going to write those properties again. We're not going to say this one's 4-sided and the angles equal 360. We're not going to say that about each of these. So if the arrow goes to the next shape, that means all those properties like move along as well. So kind of just trying to explain to you like how this flow chart works, because obviously you know how flow charts work, but maybe there's different rules depending. So we'll talk about the shapes that come off of that and kind of how they connect to one another. So going this way, what is this shape? What's this guy? Let's remember what that is. Parallelogram. It's been a while. Apparently, we're not talking about parallelograms with your family work, right? So parallelogram. And just for spacing wise, this one has 4 bullet points and they're pretty like longer-ish. So you might want to like kind of spread things out a little bit. I'll try to fit them as best I can on my sheet. But I have to write like bigger and so you guys can all read. So we already know a parallelogram has 4 sides and all the angles add to 360, but what makes a parallelogram special beyond that? So there's again 4 properties.
The parallel sides are equal.
Yep, so the opposite sides are parallel and equal. So there's 2 sets of parallel and equal sides. So that's 1 bullet point. And I'm going to use symbols if that's okay. So equal and parallel sides. If you need to write that out, if you look back, you'll say, I'll look back then and don't know what that means, or that won't occur to you. So there's 2 sets of equal and parallel sides. So that makes it more specific than a regular, like just quadrilateral. So we have 3 more things.
Opposite angles are equal.
So the opposite angles are equal, very good. Again, I'm using just symbols where I can just to kind of keep things shorter. Opposite angles are equal. And we wrote this all down, but I don't want you looking it up. You don't need to. We can just trying to recall from memory. I know it's been a while. Do you need lead? I have lead. There's another thing about the angles, and there's something else about another part of the parallelogram. the angles that are on this, like, they equal 180. So we can say the consecutive angles are supplementary, so they add to 180. Okay, so this one I abbreviated quite a bit. Consecutive angles are supplementary, they add to 180. So that's two angles next to each other would add to 180. And that's anywhere on the shape. And then our last one is about the diagonals. So in our parallelogram, this one's not perpendicular. They're not equal. There's the other option there. Yeah, so they bisect each other. Thank goodness for glue. The diagonals bisect each other. Now this is a lot to remember, but I'm hoping it's something that, like, this chart over the next week or so, we'll probably end up testing it maybe on Thursday in here. That this would be something you guys can kind of look at if you're like a flashcard person. This would be a great thing to make flashcards of. If you know, like making charts or whatever it happens to be, it's like some way to get yourself to memorize these. Now for our test, we need to know them. For our exam, you'll get to use a note card. So for the exam, you can put things like this on the note card just so you don't have to remember everything, because obviously every chapter has, you know, lots of lists like this. All right, so we're gonna move down from there. So I'm gonna keep going. So going down here, so again, everything of the quadrilateral goes down to these shapes as well. Everything of the parallelogram goes down to these shapes. That's why there's the arrows there, so you know they connect. I move my over here a little bit. So we're gonna go a little more specific down here. So this one's a rectangle. If I can spell. So now we're not going to have to write as much because of the fact that all the properties of a parallelogram are also true of a rectangle. So all of the above, the four sides, that applies still to our rectangle. So there's two new things about a rectangle that are more specific than a parallelogram. Yep, so there's four right angles. So there's four 90-degree angles in our rectangle. And then in this case, the diagonals, once we kind of make this upright, the diagonals are now equal. So the diagonals are equal. So that's all that's new about a rectangle compared to a parallelogram, compared to a quadrilateral. So kind of understanding that those things apply as well. So we'll do rhombus and square, and then we can take a break. So this next one, this little one here, is our rhombus. This one has 3 little bullet points just for spacing wise. So compared to a parallelogram, so again, we're not comparing this to a rectangle. Compared to a parallelogram, what makes a rhombus special? So the angles are 40 degrees, or 90 degrees, sorry. Now all the sides are equal, so there's 4 congruent sides. And the next two are both about the diagonals. So once it becomes a rhombus, Now the diagonals are going to be perpendicular, so that's where that comes in. And I'm going to use the perpendicular symbol as a little upside down T. Again, if you'll forget that, then maybe write perpendicular instead. So a little upside down T is perpendicular. And then I'm guessing this one you might forget. This is the diagonals. They bisect. They bisect the angles they're in. So they bisect those angles that they're coming from. Good news is we don't have much to write for the square. Or we don't have much to write other than it's a square. Because there's no new properties. It's all of the above. So all the properties above. So from a rhombus, rectangle, parallelogram to quadrilateral, all of those properties apply to our square. So if you need to write all the above, if you think you'll forget that, but it's just, the square just gets all those properties. It has no new properties. It's basically just all of these. Like, so really we could write, I don't know, it's like 10 different properties of a square, but we don't need to write them all again because we've already written them once. Okay? All right, so, yeah, so we have 3 more shapes to do. So I think we could probably do a break. What should we do? Sleep. We find a fun Kahoot. I'm gonna stop recording and start it.